Rosie here at Just Chill Baby Sleep. Today we are talking nap transitions. What are they? When do they happen? How can we manage them? These are the things I'm asked all the time. So I'm going to be primarily focusing on 6 months and up, which is actually the age range that I work with. But also just to reassure you, if you're struggling with naps under the age of 6 months, that's really, really common. Some of them struggle to consolidate naps really till they get a bit bigger. So they might be doing loads of little cat naps, or their naps might be quite variable. So don't worry about that. So today we're going to be talking about transitions. So what is a nap transition? A nap transition is when your baby drops a nap. So they might go from 4 naps to 3, 3 naps to 2, 2 naps to 1, or 1 nap to none, which is the really hard one. So a lot of this depends on how long your baby's napping, how well they're sleeping at night, are they able to self-settle or not, what time they're going to bed, what time they're waking up in the morning, all of these different variables. So there's not kind of a set in concrete, this is when your baby will go through a nap transition, because they're all different, right? So we can't expect them to all do it at the same time. The signs that they might be ready to drop a nap would be, the classic sign is them not settling for it anymore when they used to. And this is the key, because if you know that they can self-settle, then you'll know that if they suddenly stop settling for that nap, then something might be a little bit out of balance. So not settling for a nap. Waking early from a nap is another sign. So they might still settle for it, but then they're actually waking up halfway through the next one where they wouldn't normally do that. The other one would be doing the nap, but then not settling for their next nap later in the day when they normally would. And the last sign would be potentially waking up really, really early in the morning, waking up earlier and earlier and earlier, and using their next nap to catch up on that early morning sleep. So there's quite a few different signs that your little one might be ready to go through a nap transition. So how do you manage it, right? Well, what I would say is, first of all, don't be tempted to just cut out a nap altogether unless you're sure they really, really don't need it. What I suggest doing is gradually cutting down the naps. So for example, if you had a baby that was 12 months and you thought, wow, I think this is all going a bit wrong, I don't think they necessarily need this morning nap anymore, don't cut it out completely. But what I would advise you doing is shaving off 5 minutes every so often and seeing if that has a positive effect. That's a good way to do it. And that would go for any nap really. So for example, if you had a 6 or 7 month old and you were thinking they might be ready to go down to 2 naps, and that third nap of the day, they're really, really fighting it, they're not going to sleep, you've decided on your particular cutoff for sleep for the day, because it does vary person to person, baby to baby, but let's say you kind of decided, okay, we need 2 hours before bedtime, so we're going to cut this nap off at 5 o'clock. And normally they would sleep 4:30 till 5, and you think actually it's 4:30, they're not settling for this is a nightmare. What you might do is gradually reduce it. So if they've fallen asleep eventually, don't maybe let them sleep quite as long as you were before. But you need to judge your baby, and actually with that third nap you will sometimes find that if they're really, really fighting it, they might be telling you that they don't need it. So how do we manage it? So that's one way, which is actually gradually reducing naps. And the other way is potentially moving the next nap forward. For example, if they did drop a morning nap, the next nap, they're probably going to need to have a bit earlier than they normally do. With a younger one, if they're dropping their third nap, bedtime might need to come earlier, a little bit earlier, just to make up for that. They might not be able to stretch quite as far with their awake time. So it's being conscious of awake time and how long they've been awake, but also tweaking your routine along the way, and not doing it cold turkey, but doing it gradually. And it's a bit of an experiment to see how your baby reacts. Going down from 1 nap to no nap is a very tricky one. The same signs, they're not settling for it, or with older ones who are often in a bed, they might be getting out of bed and refusing it, and then trying to sleep like too close to bedtime. So it'd be a case of managing it, and some days they might do it, some days they might not, just before they're about to drop a nap altogether. it can be a process where they might nap every other day for a few months, or they might just gradually naturally reduce it. But don't panic. It sounds all very complicated, but as long as you keep progressing with your baby and don't get stuck with where you started. So if you have your routine, it's worked really well at 6 months, that routine is likely going to need to change by the age of 10 months, because our babies grow, they change, their sleep requirements change, and it's just a case of keeping up with it. But if you keep up with it and gradually change things, then eventually your baby will adjust. So I hope that's helpful. Don't panic. If you're struggling, just keep up the good work, and I'm sure you will get there with your nap transitions. Best of luck!